That was an unbelievably dramatic League Two weekend with some storylines that really warmed the cockles, George. It was a League Two weekend in which Exeter turn Fitzwater into wins. Beware the Hides of March. Josh does a Dion Dublin for Crewe. An early bonus does the trick for Chesterfield at Salford. Bobby Faulkner provides one of the great outfielder in nets stories of our era, while Bobby Kamwa goes full Adebayor. All that and more on NTT20's Monday Pod League 2 recap, brought to you by loaded.com. George, will start with Barnet, who started the season very, very nicely indeed, beating Salford on opening weekend, going to Shrews and winning 3-1.
Yes, a result, and when you look at the quality of the goals as well, as we'll talk about, kind of supports the idea that Barnet might be one of the teams to look out for this season. Although I would say that Shrewsbury played their part in this, and even though in the end it was Barnet who got the win, I think there were signs in Shrewsbury's performance that give hope. Give some cause for optimism and cause for hope. So it wasn't all one-way traffic. But when you sign a player who's been recently promoted out of League Two to drop down to League Two, Jake Reeves, from AF Wimbledon to Barnet, it's quite nice when they just stroke one in from 25 yards just to announce themselves to the Barnet fans.
He's going to be right at home in a Dean Brennan side.
Yeah, he really will. I think everything will go through him. It's a really sharp signing. Someone who's in their 30s, has had success. Will bring a bit of EFL savvy and know-how to the team, as will and has Charlie Lakin, who came in the summer from Walsall, who scored the second goal with, again, a really nicely taken finish. And then Tom Knowles, who's having a really fun time since joining, having scored a hat-trick against the Arsenal under-21s in the EFL Trophy in the game before. Dropped to the bench after a hat-trick and then comes off and scores a nice goal late on to make it 3-1. Davison had profited from a mistake from the Barnet keeper, Matthew Cox, to kind of prod one home just before half-time. As I say, Shrewsbury had chances. It wasn't like it was all Barnet, especially at 1-1 kind of early in the second half. Shrewsbury had opportunities to try and, to go ahead here. And it wasn't, unlike Barnet's opening day win over Salford, where they were just by far and away the better team. This was a much more level game. But Barnet getting the win. Reeves, Lakin, Knowles, the recruitment is paying off already. And we spoke in the summer in our 1-24s about how it felt like they'd lost some key players, and maybe last season was a season for Barnet to really show what they're about. But early signs are that they've done well in terms of the players they brought in to replace them. So, another positive one for them. And as I say, for Shrewsbury, never nice to lose a first home game. But there were signs there, I think, that it's not all bad.
Barnet are now favourites for the League Two title. Wowza. Also with them on maximum points, Crewe Alex. First home game of the season, 1-0 win against Northampton in frankly hilarious circumstances. 1-0 to Crewe, Josh March winner for the second game in a row. And just like last week, where they won in frankly hilarious circumstances at Crawley with a winner from Josh March after 3 red cards, 2 of them straight reds for Crawley. This was not quite as dramatic in terms of the match itself. In fact, it was quite quiet in some ways. Crewe only had 2 shots in the first half of their first home game of the season, not exactly flying out the traps in front of their home fans. Northampton, the away side, on the balance of play over the course of the game, a draw or maybe even a Northampton win might have better reflected the way the game went. But that's not what happens always in football, and that's why we like it. And crazy stuff can happen. Josh March on the attack for Crewe. Ball comes across. He's running in to try and finish it, but the goalkeeper, Zach Geacock, claims it. Picks it up, stands up, waits for his defence to move out, and March has made that run near post, has ended up off the pitch. And as he's about to come back on the pitch, he realises that Geacock's the sort of keeper that likes to drop the ball on the floor out of his hands and play from there. And so he just stops himself. He goes, I wonder if Geacock might roll it out here. And he realises, that's exactly what Geacock's about to do. Now, 4 Northampton defenders also realise that that's what Geacock's about to do. And they realise it's behind you. Josh March is behind you. But Geacock doesn't hear them. Drops the ball on the floor. March nips in, rolls it into an empty net. Geacock head in hands. 4 Northampton defenders head in hands. It's really funny from a Crewe point of view. It wins them the game. From a Northampton point of view, how unfair can life be, basically? They've not scored in 4 games this season, 2 in the league and in the cup. Not a single goal scored yet. This is off the back of losing their last 11 league games of last season. And 14 of their last 15. They got 1 point from 15 games to end last season. They've started this season in the level below without scoring in 4 games. And then stuff like this, which just doesn't help. And you know what? We had Northampton in the bottom 2 in our 1-24s. Quite a strong reaction to that one. I'd like to be feeling kind of smug at the fact that they haven't scored. They're on 1 point. But I think they're playing fine. And I think it will come soon as long as they don't completely lose their heads and lose their confidence. They haven't played badly against Swindon or Crewe. They haven't played amazingly well either, but definitely not poorly. Their first 2 games have been tight ones that they've probably edged. And they just need to hold their nerve because more fear and more anxiety will not help things when you're in this sort of form as a club. For Crewe, March obviously gets the winner, but Josh Stevenson, the big standout, on loan from Brentford. Always a good idea to get loanees from Brentford or Brighton. Centre-back, professional debut, looked excellent at Crewe, as was mentioned in Sunday scouting reports on our Twitter account. Have a very good record with loanees under Lee Bell, and this looks like it could be another really good one for them as they finalise their squad. So, Crewe, top joint with Barnet. Barnet beat Salford on opening day. And it was a chastening defeat for the pre-season title favourites and their manager Peter Klimovsky and all their new stars like Langstaff and Molyneux. So a home game against Chesterfield was a chance to get back on track. What happened?
Yeah, they lost 1-0. And it's kind of amusing how they go out and they sign Molyneux and they sign Langstaff and then they get beaten 3-1 and it's defensively terrible. So they're like, oh, we'll go out and buy Brandon Wiredu then from Plymouth Argyle, who is another player who has moved up to League One level on merit, and I wouldn't have thought would have taken any other League Two move at this stage. When you're taking a player off a club who have aspirations to get promoted out of League One, and quite a lot of their fans are like, "Oh no, that's a shame. I quite like him. He's quite good. He's moving to League Two." It just goes to show the ambition and the spending power of Salford. But at the moment, it doesn't matter because they aren't playing very well. They hosted a Chesterfield team whose own qualities are evident in terms of their previous. Coming into this game, they had played and at home to Fleetwood and lost the game 1-0. They'd played away at Fleetwood in the EFL Cup and lost the game 1-0. So 2 1-0 defeats against Fleetwood, followed up by a 1-0 win against Salford. They went ahead after 2 minutes. Lee Bonus capitalising on a defensive mix-up between the Salford defenders. Again, the home team, a lot of good players. Down 1-0 after 2 minutes, you would expect there to be a game state tilt in the way that the game would therefore look, with Salford dominating, but it just wasn't really the case. Yes, they had a lot of the ball, but Chesterfield continued to look like the more likely team to score. And again, defensively, they looked really poor. In the second half, they improved to a degree and had a few more opportunities. Williamson had a header right at the end of the game that was cleared off the line. But apart from that, this was this was very, very good from Chesterfield, who went ahead early and managed the game well and looked the likely team to get a second. And it's a huge win for them, especially off the back of the Fleetwood defeat in the league, where Chad Evans scored an incredible goal after a really disappointing end to last season in the playoffs. A statement win like this. We were at this game last season, which also ended 1-0 to Chesterfield, but the goal was one of the last kicks of the game rather than one of the first kicks of the game. But same result. But yeah, I think with Salford now, it's only 2 games. They could obviously turn it around, but I would say the manner of the defeat in both games, the total lack of open play chance creation is a worry. With a manager like Peter Klimovsky, where you just don't know. You can kind of be impressed by what he's done in the past, but it's a different level of football or certainly different leagues in different countries that he's managed in before. And it always felt like with Salford we were going to learn quite a lot about Klimovsky in the first couple of weeks. And yeah, fair to say that so far it's pretty impossible to be impressed. Now, the Monday Pod is brought to you by Loaded, and George and I, we've got quite the history with football video games. Championship Manager 0102 very much helped launch a lifetime friendship, which is now a business partnership. Let's hope so. They say never go into business with your friends. So.
But there was also lockdown, where you and I were plunged into uncertainty work-wise, I think it's fair to say. And Football Manager at that time very much stepped up to the point where you had a player, a regen, a not real player, called Ion Luca, that we still talk about to this day.
Who says he's not real? He's a real Foot Manager player. Yeah, Arne Luca was a Romanian 5'4" attack midfielder, all kind of winger. He was basically the Romanian Messi.
Yeah.
And he scored a lot of goals for me. He was incredible. He kind of
St Albans?
captured my heart. St Albans, yeah. The challenge, I think, was that we had to go from the Vanarama North or South to win the Champions League, and you guys all stopped about 4 months before me, and I still kept you guys very up to date with what I was doing. And then I won the Champions League final, closed my laptop, and never went back to that save ever again.
Yeah, it's quite a special thing, isn't it? I'm still someone that really enjoys carving out time to play video games. For me, almost always Football Manager or EA Sports FC. And with Loaded, who are sponsoring the Monday Pod, being front of shirt sponsor for Derby County, being a digital game store where you will get the best value for video games and for vouchers and gift cards and things of that nature. We want to deliver glory. We have the NTT20 Video Game Challenge, and it's to manage Derby County on FM26 for the next 5 or 6 weeks until EA Sports FC comes out, and see who can take them the furthest. I'm top of the league after 2 games, but you may well do better than me. You can join the NTT20 Gaming Club Discord using the link in the description. That's just a forum where we talk about video games and keep everyone up to date with our progress. We got exciting times, EAFC and Football Manager coming out soon, and Loaded the place to be for unbeatable prices on games. So yeah, join that Discord channel using the link in the description. And with thanks to Loaded for sponsoring the Monday Pod this season. We move on to the most entertaining game of the weekend across the entire EFL. It's Bristol Rovers 5, Newport 3. What a bizarre weekend in League Two. We've already had the Josh March "It's behind you" goal, reminiscent of Dion Dublin. Later on, we've got a centre-back going in goal and performing incredibly well. And there are some quite good examples of that from history. And here we have the closest replica to Emmanuel Adebayor's celebration when he scored for Man City against Arsenal at the Etihad, one of the iconic goal celebrations in English football history. And we've had a remake. So, Newport score after 12 seconds of this game. That's a good place to start. And it's my old friend Harrison Biggins. I didn't think last week I could say much more positive about Harrison Biggins and how impressed I am, how good he looks every time I see Newport play. He swept home after 12 seconds. He then hit the post from 40 yards at 1-0, lobbing the keeper on the volley. He is a joke at the moment. But Bristol Rovers, as a team, have stronger, better players than Newport County, and that started to show. Now, on the left wing for them, Bobby Kamwa, former Newport County player, and right out on the left wing in that first half, that's where the Newport fans are gathered, in that corner at Bristol Rovers. And Kamwa is getting booed. Not by absolutely everyone, it's not disgraceful, but you can hear it on the highlights. He receives the ball right in front of the fans, he's getting booed. It's pretty classic stuff. He hits the bar with a good piece of individual play. Then he gets to the byline again, his cross loops off the bar, and Purrington heads home for 1-0. Now, it's important to note at this stage that Kamwa, the former Newport player, and a popular one as well, whose performances right at the back end of last season were a huge reason why they stayed up in the end.
Kept them up.
He did. He said before the game, when he was asked about this, "It's a tough one because I don't know what reception I'm going to get. So I'll go off the reception I get. If you're nice to me, I'm nice to you. You give me boos, and that might just turn me on a little bit." So he has heard some boos, and he has been turned on. We're talking in a footballing sense.
Not Lee Johnson style.
Better than nope. And more on that later. We have a flurry of goals. Caven puts Bristol Rovers 2-1 up. Jenkins' own goal, it's 3-1. But Gwengwe, we spoke about him last week, came from 46 goals for Poole Town last season. Scored another here for Newport, and it was a good take too. 75th minute, 3-2 at this point. Kamwa gets it on the left, cuts in, bends it into the top corner. Great goal, putting them 2 goals ahead. And he turns and he runs 80 yards to the Newport fans, initially doing the Shearer, and then just arms outstretched. It could not be more of a blatant 2 fingers up to those county fans. It is full Adebayor. Now, Dan, who's a Newport fan, big member of NTT20 squad, understandably pretty pissed off, saying that the booing wasn't like horrendous. His point, I would say you can
just moderate booing.
He said, everyone I've spoken to is pretty grateful for what Kamwa did for us. There's also definitely a sense that Kamwa's own career has been kick-started by the platform that Newport County gave him. There's an acceptance, says Dan, that Bristol Rovers is a step up for him, but he's now going to get a really bad reception when he comes back to Rodney Parade, which is a shame, And he also said, I think it's pretty disrespectful to the players that he played with last season who were already at the club. And indeed, we saw quite a few of those Newport players go over to him and remonstrate with him, both after the goal and at full time. What's your take on this? Because I'm quite blinded by how funny I think it is and the fact that I just want more fun, random, crazy stuff to happen every week across these leagues. So I'm slightly biased because I'm kind of like, yeah, he said before the game, boo me and that'll turn me on. You booed him. He scored a worldie. He ran to celebrate in front of you. But it possibly did go a bit too far.
But it's like, if you're a Newport County fan, of course you're going to be upset. But in the same way that if you're booing an opposition player, like you're trying to get them riled up, like it's all part of the pantomime. And if you can be upset, but also just accept that it's something that happens. I'm all in favour of players wresting back a bit of control and agency, and rather than just accepting that they're allowed to get, abused at games, they can give a bit back. I've seen it a few times at games. I'm sure a lot of people who are listening have as well, where you see like an away fan, so in my case, normally an Oxford fan, basically giving it to an opposition player, and then they give a tiny bit back, and they absolutely lose their heads. They're like, it's a disgrace. Starts calling them like stewards, being like, he's just done this. It's like, yeah. It's like, I pay for my ticket. It's like that. Does it say on your ticket that you've paid to like be able to scream at other human beings on the pitch? So yeah, if I'm honest, I think that the Emmanuel Adebayor celebration is one of the greatest things that ever happened on a football pitch. This is a bit different, as you say. Like there's less reason for animosity.
Yeah, it didn't feel like heading into this game there should be any of this between Kamwa and the
apart
Newport
from
fans.
The one person who, on the morning of the game, quote tweeted a video of Adebayor doing it, saying, "This is going to be Kamwa when he scores against us later." And it was. Maybe he
saw it on the bus on the way to the game.
I thought, that's quite fun.
Anyway, it's either a bit too much, incredibly disrespectful, incredibly good, wind-up merchant behaviour.
Or it's all those things.
Yeah. Newport wouldn't go away, though. Made it 4-3. Great cross from Merritt, headed home by Cole Jarvis. But
imagine how much their fans would have wanted them to come back and get something from this game after that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Do you reckon they'd all run on the pitch like that to him?
Oh, yeah. I'd have thought so.
Class.
They chucked their keeper up at 4-3. Ball was cleared. Caven ran it into an empty net. 5-3. Game of the weekend. What do you make of the Kamwa situation, particularly neutrals? Be good to hear from you in the comments section. Rochdale 1, Crawley 2. Dale, back-to-back defeats against two of the teams that were right down there last season in Newport and now Crawley. And Crawley up and running, George.
So we've often mentioned and discussed in our preview content that no team has ever been promoted out of the National League and then relegated straight back into non-league. It hasn't happened before in the season after.
Why are you bringing this up, George?
Because
I'm feeling nervous.
Right now, and with Rochdale, there's been more upheaval and change than there normally is with a promoted team, given they lost Jim McNulty, their manager. Ian Watson is now in, someone that is an unknown quantity to all of us, because he's, well, not to all of us, but those who don't follow
South Shields,
National League North football. But their performances up to this point have been alarming, to say the least. Getting beat 3-0 at Newport County, getting beat 2-1 at home by Crawley, and in both cases being second best. They are making me worry. Obviously, it's a tough league to get relegated out of. Only two teams go down, but at this very early stage, Rochdale are fully on my radar in that respect. And also, like, part of the reason why promoted teams tend to do well is that you start seasons well because there's a continuity from the season before. There is a harmony or whatever else, whereas they've completely lost that because of the upheaval. They went 1-0 down pretty early on with Pemi Aderoju scoring a close range finish after some really nice work by Osman Kamara, who looks lively for Crawley. He then had another really good run down the left-hand side that nearly came to something where he showed just an outrageous turn of pace. It was a proper kick and run dribble where it seemed like he gave the fullback a big head start and still managed to get to the ball ahead of him. Ebanks Landell equalised for Rochdale shortly after half time. Before that man, Pemi was fouled with 20 minutes or so to go, and Louis Watson tucked away the penalty. But it was what Crawley deserved. They were good. They were effective. After their own opening day defeat against Crewe, where they conceded in the 95th minute, having two men sent off, and obviously didn't have either Gordon or Adebayor available for this game. This was a win that will just settle everyone down, because I think you and I both saw that game against Crewe and thought, oh my God, what is this going to be? So a good away win, a good performance, no red cards, basically what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, Colin Kazim-Richards still providing excellent content in his interviews. Last week, he was talking about his hatred for what he calls energy sloths, people who drain energy, which is amazing use of sloth in that context. And then after this, went on a real ramble in which he started to suggest, as is quite normal, that the travelling fans might enjoy their trip home. He said, I hope they stop at some service stations and some of them will have some cans of... have a good time and drive home really safely and never drink and drive.
Yeah. What was weird about it is that I know where he's coming from in his mind about not mentioning the word beer.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes you just don't know, like, am I allowed to talk about drinking?
Yeah, you definitely don't want to say the wrong thing. I can see exactly what his mind's doing.
To not want to say the word beer and then just say drink driving felt like an interesting thing. But I mean, I'd like to also say
message.
I mean, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Couldn't agree more. Exeter 2, Accrington 0. Great weekend for centre-back scoring kind of weird overhead kicks. Lloyd Jones for Charlton, meet Jack Fitzwater for Accrington. Just sort of bouncing ball back to goal to the side of the box, just hooks it over his head and it just loops lovely. Drops right into the far corner.
It loops lovely.
Lovely loops. 1-0 Exeter early on against Aki. 2-0 after 12 minutes. Unfortunate own goal from Keneally, a sort of shanked volley which just flew off his head and into the corner. So it's 2-0 Exeter. It's a strong start. They're ahead. What have Accrington got? Can they get their way back into the game? They did not do a great job getting back into the game. And while I'm adamant they were the better side on opening day against Colchester, they were certainly not that here. And credit to Exeter because just kind of saw it out. Minimal fuss, 2-0 home win. They had some more chances. One big one for Jaden Wareham, who's, if he's trying to show the teams in League One that he's worth them signing so that he can score the same amount of goals he scored for Exeter last season in League One, it's unfortunate that he can't seem to hit a barn door at the moment, which is very out of character. But he had another big chance and didn't take it. But elsewhere, Exeter looking solid. James, Fitzwater and Woodhouse, the centre-backs, looking decent. Cummins and Doyle Hayes in midfield looking decent. Sort of cautiously optimistic for Exeter, albeit, big week of transfer activity. Wareham, obviously, I'm still expecting him to leave, but it hasn't happened yet. What will they be able to replace him with up at the top of the pitch? Because they are very light in those areas. A poor performance from Aki here. Right, George, let's go to Colchester 2, Oldham 1.
Sure. Topsy-turvy game, this one. You put up Oldham as your nap in the betting show, which looked like it was a good selection for quite a lot of the game because they went 1-0 up away from home. One of the goals of the weekend, I would say, from Keenan Appiah-Forson, one of a couple of players at Oldham Athletic, signed from Southend United, gets on the ball on the left wing, kind of turns back on himself, cuts inside and fires a right-footed shot from about, it must be about 30 yards because he's quite far out when he hits it, into the top right-hand corner, leaving the keeper with no chance. But his former teammate, who is also still his teammate, the other player brought from Southend over the summer, Gus Scott Morris, was sent off in injury time in the first half. And this is one where you told me before I'd watched it that it was a joke of a red. I saw it in real time and it looked to me like it was a joke of a red. You then see the kind of, and I know it's slow motion and everything else, but you can then kind of see why it may have been given a red. It does feel like it's quite, it studs into base of ankle territory.
Yeah. Well, I will admit that I thought it had been given for the initial challenge, not the secondary challenge.
Right.
So I think I was just probably wrong there, to be fair.
Yes.
And I was talking with my wallet because I was disappointed that Oldham, having led and everything going broadly as I thought it would, then lost after a red card.
And the referee is kind of on top of it, so you think he'd know. Although, judging by his face, Scott Morris was on your side and also thought it was a joke, but he was probably also thinking with his wallet.
That second challenge is not a good one.
Okay.
Not a good one.
Second half, as you can imagine, 10 against 11 went very, very differently. Colchester just totally and utterly dominated the whole of the second half as Oldham just tried to hold on to whatever they could hold on to, and they just failed to do so. Harry Anderson scored the equaliser. He had a few chances in the second half and finally converted one with a header, well planted header from relatively close range. They then got a penalty that Jack Payne missed. It was saved by Hudson in the Oldham goal, but then in the 94th minute, a ridiculous own goal, really, and one that will feel so frustrating for Oldham, with Iandolo crossing from the left wing, and in a desperate attempt to try and stop the ball going across the goal, Lewis Temple kind of sticks out a leg, and it just loops really slowly, and he tries to get up to try and stop it from going in, and he just can't get there in time. Painful to watch, but sends the home fans into delirium, and it's a big win for them. The bit of negativity around the club, I guess, over the course of the summer. They still can't find a buyer for the club, still can't really invest the way that they want to, losing a couple of key players. But they've got 4 points from their first 2 games. I'd say still some concern about the performances, 11v11, but it's not easy to beat 10 men. And in that second half, they were so dominant that it's hard to argue they didn't deserve it.
Yeah, also on 4 points, Swindon, they beat Cheltenham 2-1 in their first home game of the season. Quite an important one, this, for atmosphere purposes, after last season's late sort of tumble out of the automatic places and indeed out of the playoff places. Holloway and the fans needed a win, and they got it. Aaron Drinan, top goal scorer in the league last season, just a very, very, very good finisher at the level, and got on the ball, carried it forward, had a pass on, but when you're as good as he is at shooting, probably worth having a go. Picked out the top corner from 20 yards. Just the sort of finish that just looks a cut above, to be quite honest. They went 2-0 up early in the second half, long throw, flick on. There was Ollie Clark, 2-0 Swindon. Now, from that point, Cheltenham had, some joy getting forward, quite a few shots inside Swindon's box, 8 in total in the second half, and ended up pulling one back on the 85th minute. Really nice goal from Ryan Broom outside the box, top corner, bosh. But I think overall, Swindon have done pretty well here. Cheltenham did come onto them a little bit, but from 2-0 up, that is normal, I'd say. This was broadly a solid performance from Swindon, which I'm encouraged by. Billy Kirkman, the one to pick out, the left-back, youngster, only 22 years old. Haven't seen this very often before. 33 defensive contributions logged by FOTMob, which for a left-back is pretty impressive. Broken down, that's 12 tackles, 15 clearances, 6 interceptions and 10 recoveries, and the Man of the Match award. Unsurprisingly, Billy Kirkman. Impressive from him, and a good win for Swindon.
First time in a long time, this one, where I haven't gone away. For like going away with kids,
yep.
Quite tough. But it used to be a nightmare for us during the football season, so it was difficult to keep up to date with the leagues. But that's all changed with NordVPN.
Yeah, watching sports while you're abroad is no longer an issue. So get yourself away, I say. You don't need to miss a single kick of football. That's live stuff, that's highlights, all of it. With NordVPN, you can switch your location from anywhere in the world in order to access the content that you pay for and enjoy at home. I also use NordVPN for booking flights to avoid price discrimination. It's one of the fastest VPNs out there, really easy to use, great for cybersecurity as well, as it can shield your online activities from hackers and make public Wi-Fi safer to use. So yeah, just a very important, solid addition to modern life, I reckon.
And we have got an exclusive discount for NTT20 listeners, a discounted price and 4 extra months for free by heading to nordvpn.com/NTT20. That's nordvpn.com/NTT20.
Now then, time for the third pillar of the League Two weekend being bonkers and fun. The centre-back going in goal. Let me take you to Port Vale. 1-1 draw with Tranmere. Half-time, it was 1-0 to the home side, Vale. A penalty scored by George Byers. And at half-time as well, it became clear that Harrison Mayle, the Tranmere goalkeeper, was injured and wasn't able to continue. Not ideal when your keeper gets injured. You turn to the keeper on the bench. Oh my God, we don't have one. We've got 2 goalkeepers at the club, Harrison Mayle and Luke McGee. But Luke McGee's injured and has been for months and will be for months. And we've just not really bothered signing another one yet.
It's not going to happen, is it? They're not going to get injured.
Oh boy, he only went and got injured. So who goes in goal? How about Bobby Faulkner, centre-back, on loan from Doncaster? Now what's good about this is Faulkner's already a bit of a hero from his first game for Tranmere, which was opening weekend, their win against Shrewsbury, where he cleared 2 shots off the line, made 3 blocks, 19 clearances, of which 13 were headed clearances, and 10 out of 14 aerial duels won. How do you make yourself even more popular? You go in goal at half-time when your team's 1-0 down, and you just expect that the opposition will take a lot of shots from range to, test out the shot stopping, because most outfield players are not very good at stopping shots. I remember the last time this happened in League Two, it was Rory Feely of Barrow who went in goal. and did all right against a Swindon side that was struggling to create until Butterfield, with 1 minute remaining, shot from 40 yards and he let it go through him. But Vale just didn't test him very much. He made 2 saves. One was half decent, one was pretty easy. He made one unbelievably good and brave punch where he got cleaned out by the attacker, but really put himself in a dangerous position in order to clear the ball. Incredible bravery from Faulkner. And they score an equaliser while he's in goal.
Unbelievable.
And it's a very messy goal, and Tom Ince gets the credit. His persistence, the main skill there. And Tranmere leave with a 1-1 draw, having played half the match with your centre-back in goal. They lost the first half 1-0 with an actual goalkeeper, and they won the second half 1-0 with a centre-back in goal. I mean, what a sport that can happen at professional level. An incredibly specialist position. The only truly specialist position on the pitch that no one else could feasibly really play. And you play half a match when behind with a centre-back in goal, and you get an equaliser. On the flip side, not very impressed with Port Vale for failing to test him out there. A couple of draws as well. Rotherham 1, York 1, 2, putting Rotherham ahead from a set piece. They look quite dangerous from set pieces, but not that dangerous outside of that. In fact, York deserved their equaliser across from Boys, the new left-back who had that exciting debut against Bristol Rovers. It was an assist this time for Newby at the back post, who finished a fairly quiet second half, I'd say. It was certainly busier in the first. Newby for York and Bradshaw for Rotherham. Both had a shot saved. But overall, I'm probably left more impressed with York and how they played here. And I'm, in fact, just quite impressed with their start to the season. There was a lot of drama in pre-season, wasn't there, with the sacking of Maynard, the appointment of Lindsay, the defeat in that Carabao Cup preliminary game, the bad vibes, the big questions, and they were on 4 points. They've played 2 pretty tough games. Solid start to the season. 2 0-0s to finish. George, Walsall Grimsby was a match that happened. This is your your sort of soft spot team, Grimsby, through your in-laws, versus the team that you just have a very strange and quite intense relationship with. That's Walsall.
Also a soft spot. I just need to find my Walsall family, and then I'll have 2. Yeah, it's quite a good game this for a 0-0. Basically, I think with 0-0s like this at this stage of the season, it can often be 2 poor teams or 2 good teams, and this to me looked like 2 good teams. Kind of a lot of opportunities, quite wasteful finishing. Pym made a decent save in the second half, and then Ward made one afterwards, but only 3 shots on target in the whole game. Geezer David Turey is just looking really good. He is a good player who is consistently kind of growing as his Grimsby career continues. I think he's someone who's probably destined to either get a move or to take Grimsby up. He was good. Sven Sprangler and Isaac Moore were good in midfield for Walsall too. A lot of Walsall fans very happy about the shift in style of play, enjoying seeing a Walsall team try to get the ball down and play, which is nice. But 0-0.
Same scoreline. Fleetwood 0, Gills 0. The woodwork was hit 3 times. Ronan Hale for Gillingham, Goodwin for Gillingham, and McCann for Fleetwood. And Mark Helm headed over when very well placed late on in the game. So a couple of chances for each side. I would say for Gills, this was quite an important game not to lose. Missing Liam Gordon at the back, who got injured last weekend. Armani Little in midfield, who got injured last weekend. Bradley Dack in attack, who's been injured to start the season. The standout players for them, excitingly for me, because it's apart from Sam Gale, young players in short supply for Gills recently. But Zane Alvarez in midfield, 20-year-old catching the eye, as did 19-year-old Logan Dodds at the back, who may be their new young defender to replace Sam Gale. For Fleetwood, they've got lots of young players as well. Raf Chirino at right wing back and Crispin McLean off the bench. Got shout outs from Jack on our Sunday scouting reports thread on Twitter. What a weekend in League Two. It's a hell of a start to the season in the 4th tier. Hope you're enjoying the recaps brought to you by NTT20 podcast and sponsored by Loaded. Cheers and go well.